Night doesn't always bring silence. Sometimes it brings warnings. On this night, the darkness of Ouagadougou carried a pulse, a low trembling sound, like the earth itself trying to breathe quietly. The capital wasn't asleep. It was anxious, listening, waiting for something terrible to show its face. The moon hovered behind a thick blanket of ash-colored clouds, refusing to shine. Streetlights flickered nervously, like eyes that had seen too much. Stray dogs growled at the empty air. Doors were locked, curtains pulled tight. The whole city felt like a drum stretched too tight, one strike away from snapping. And in the middle of that suffocating stillness stood a man. He didn't wear medals. No shiny uniform, just a black tactical cloak that swallowed the light around him. His boots barely made a sound on the cracked pavement. He breathed steadily, but his eyes, those eyes were forged in war. This was Commander Abubakar Gaddafi, the man who would rather die than watch corruption win, the personal shield of Captain IBRAHIM TRAORÉ. Tonight, even he felt a chill spider down his spine. 2 hours earlier, he had received a message from an unknown number. No name, no traceable signal. Only one line: they will strike in 48 hours. Do not trust anyone. Gaddafi had been hunted before. Threats were like weather, always changing, never surprising. Yet this message felt different. Something in the wording, something in the silence that followed. This wasn't an enemy bragging. This was a warning from someone close to the fire. He walked deeper into Zone 1, where the streetlights never worked and the shadows kept secrets older than the city itself. Abandoned buildings leaned over the road like forgotten guardians. Bullet holes tattooed the walls, relics of battles no one wanted to remember. He passed a collapsed house where children huddled together on a ragged mattress. One boy, eyes glowing faintly in the dark, whispered through dry lips, "You're the Red Wolf. Aren't you real?" Gaddafi paused. His jaw tightened. He knelt beside the child and rested a hand on his head. "I'm real enough to protect you," he said quietly. Not a promise, a vow. Then he kept moving. The city followed him silently. Eyes peeked from cracked windows. Engines of parked cars hummed faintly, pretending to sleep. Every shadow seemed to shift as he passed. Something poisonous was crawling beneath Burkina soil, spreading fast. He reached a rust-eaten warehouse at the edge of the industrial district. To anyone else, it looked deserted. To him, it was the safest place left. He knocked, 3 slow, 3 rapid, 1 slow. The door opened only a crack. A single eye glared out. Recognition replaced suspicion. "Commander." The man whispered. Djibo Dant, former intelligence operative. A man who had lost everything except loyalty. He pulled Gaddafi inside and locked 3 bolts behind him. "They know about the Kosiam route," Djibo said, voice trembling. "Tomorrow's convoy. The ambush is already in motion." Gaddafi's heartbeat slowed. His mind sharpened. "Who?" he asked. Djibo swallowed. His hand shook. "Someone on the inside." The warehouse suddenly felt colder. Inside. That word hit like shrapnel. The enemy wasn't coming through the gates. They were already sitting at the table. Ministers? Generals? Someone near the captain? Suddenly the silence outside wasn't silence anymore. It was breathing. It was waiting for a chance to strike. Gaddafi looked up. The clouds above twisted like a giant beast swirling in the sky. He could practically feel fate brushing against his shoulders. "Give me everything," he said. "Maps, number logs, every whisper you've heard. Tonight I disappear. You'll be alone," Djibo warned. A thin smile crept onto Gaddafi's lips. "I was trained for alone." He stepped out into the night again, letting the darkness swallow him whole. A silent war had begun. He had 48 hours to stop traitors who wore the uniform of brothers. And the clock had already started running. The following morning, the presidential convoy rolled out of the capital. Engines thundered. Soldiers tightened their grips on rifles. The captain sat inside the armored vehicle, unaware of how many eyes wished to end his story before sunset. The sun barely rose that day. Gray clouds choked the sky. Birds didn't sing. Even the wind avoided the eastern bypass road. Gaddafi rode in the 3rd vehicle from the front, scanning rooftops, bridges, every possible sniper nest. His fingers drummed on his holster, listening to instincts that never lied. Something wasn't right. The convoy turned a corner. For a heartbeat, everything was quiet. Then the earth exploded. A blaze of fire and dirt shot into the sky. The lead truck lifted off the ground, flipping twice before crashing upside down. Shockwaves tore through the convoy. Windows shattered. Metal screamed. Flames swallowed oxygen. Gaddafi didn't hesitate. He kicked open the door before the dust even cleared. Bullets whistled past his head. Tracer fire lit the smoke like lightning. Snipers, at least 3. Elevated. His boots hit the ground. Heat hammered his skin, but he didn't slow down. The captain's car was stalled. One side ripped open like a wounded animal. Gaddafi sprinted through burning debris, using smoke as cover. A bullet grazed his shoulder. Another shattered the asphalt near his feet. He dived behind the flaming wreckage of a pickup truck. Inside, the captain was alive, shaken, confused, fighting to stay conscious. Gaddafi grabbed his vest and shouted through the chaos. "Stay with me, Captain. We're not dying today," the captain blinked, not fear in his eyes. Trust the attack wasn't a warning. It was the beginning, because someone inside the palace had just declared war on Burkina Faso's future, and Gaddafi wasn't about to let them. When he would drag the truth into the light, even if he had to walk through fire to get there. Gunfire swallowed the air. Gaddafi forced the captain upright, slapping his cheek lightly. "Stay with me. Eyes open, you're breathing. That means we're still fighting." Bullets sliced through smoke like angry insects. The ambush wasn't random. It was surgical. Each shot meant to kill, not scare. These weren't bandits. They were professionals. Voices echoed through the haze. Some spoke Arabic. A few barked commands in French. Then one voice cut through everything. A Burkina accent. Young, confident. Someone from home had pulled the trigger against his own flag. Gaddafi emerged from cover just long enough to fire 3 quick shots. A sniper slumped off a rooftop. The other shooters paused, startled by the predator who refused to die. His earpiece crackled alive with panic. "Unit 3 is gone. Command, we need extraction." "Where is Red Wolf?" He gritted his teeth. "I'm right here. I need smoke." 30 seconds. "I'm moving the captain." "Copy!" Before the smoke deployers activated, a scream sliced through the chaos. He turned. A young boy, no older than 10, lay trapped under flaming debris. Blood spread across his small chest like a cruel stain. The child reached out with trembling fingers as if grabbing onto life itself. For 1 second, Gaddafi froze. Then a bullet whistled past, grazing his ear. Another tore into the dirt by his knee. He had 2 targets, 2 lives, and time enough to save only one. Gaddafi's jaw locked. A decision snapped inside him. He hauled the captain over his shoulder and sprinted as smoke grenades burst open behind them, flooding the road with thick white fog. Bullets hissed through the haze, confused, lost, searching for flesh. Another explosion. A deafening roar. Flames illuminated the tragedy they left behind. The boy was swallowed by fire. They crashed into the tree line, tumbling behind a mound of sand and roots. Gaddafi finally dropped the captain gently, his heart thundering not from fear, but fury, the kind that grows claws. The captain opened his eyes slowly, voice weak but steady. "You saved my life again." Gaddafi stared ahead, trapped in the memory of a tiny hand reaching for him, then disappearing. "I saved one life," he muttered. "I lost another." The captain placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. "We save our people by staying alive." "The war isn't over," Gaddafi nodded, but his eyes burned with guilt. Someone inside there. Ranks wanted the captain dead, someone who knew every detail, someone trusted the battlefield. Wasn't distant anymore, it was in their veins. Hours later, the Sahel wind carried them south. The sand whispered secrets beneath their boots. No birds dared fly, even the sun seemed afraid to shine. The captain had been evacuated under guard. Gaddafi had only one mission now: find the snake. Cut off its head. Coordinates scribbled in faded ink guided him far from paved roads and watchful cameras. He didn't carry heavy weapons. No elite squad followed him. Only instinct walked beside him, whispering suspicious names. He reached a forgotten village where the huts leaned crooked like tired bones. Even the air felt old. She lived there. The woman people only called Mabara, the one who waits. Villagers avoided her home. They said she could hear the truth in your heartbeat. They said she spoke to ghosts of soldiers never buried. Just before sunset, Gaddafi stood at her warped wooden door. The sky behind him was a river of burning gold. He raised his fist to knock. Before he touched the wood, her voice pierced the quiet. "You've come too late, child of the red moon." His blood chilled. The door opened with a soft creak. Inside was a place untouched by time or reason. Dried herbs hung from ropes like strange trophies. Masks carved from bone stared without blinking. A clay bowl in the corner glowed with red smoke that curled like living serpents. Gaddafi stepped inside as if entering a courtroom, where his soul was the accused. Mabara's eyes were pale white, blinded long ago. Yet somehow seeing everything. "You smell of guilt," she said. "You carry 2 deaths." Gaddafi's throat tightened. "I only saw one." She shook her head slowly. "War hides the truth. Regret reveals it." He clenched his fists. "I didn't come for spiritual games." She smiled, a smile that knew too much. "You seek answers because reason has failed you. The traitor is close, closer than breath, closer than blood." Every muscle in his body tensed. Mabara opened a worn leather pouch and placed 3 items into his hand. A dark stone, cold as a grave, a twisted root, shaped like a noose, a string, stained by something darker than dirt. "This is clarity," she whispered. "It reveals truth. If it grows warm, trust the person nearby. If it burns—" She paused, voice barely a breeze. "Run." Gaddafi narrowed his eyes. "Run from what?" She leaned so close he could feel the ancient heat of her breath. "From yourself." He felt the floor sway beneath him. His heartbeat pounded like war drums. She walked to the steaming bowl and placed her hand into the red mist. "There are forces moving," she whispered. "Some wear the uniform of your homeland." She lifted her hand, dripping crimson. "Smoke. Some wear expensive suits." Her eyes turned toward him. "And some wear the face of the one you trust." The room squeezed around him like a fist for the first time in years. Commander Gaddafi felt fear. Not of bullets, not of death, of betrayal. The kind that destroys nations. Mabara turned away, ending the conversation without a goodbye. Gaddafi stepped back into the dying light. The pouch clenched tight in his palm. The desert wind tasted bitter. A traitor was among them. Someone respected, someone powerful, someone who would kill a child to get to the captain, and Gaddafi had just been warned. The greatest danger wasn't in the shadows. It was standing in the sun, smiling. Before Gaddafi departed, the elder woman pressed a small wooden carving into his hand. A lion, fierce and proud. Her voice was soft yet unshakably strong. "When the desert screams and the world tries to turn you into a monster, this will remind you who you truly are." He gave a silent nod and stepped into the night. The wind picked up again, moaning like the land itself was mourning a future not yet lost but dangerously close. He tucked the token near his heart, where the warmth of the black stone pulsed through the leather pouch beneath his shirt. Too warm, like a warning, a promise of the fight ahead. The sky cracked open. Rain hammered the training grounds with a rage that felt personal. Gaddafi stood alone in the field, drenched, staring at the endless horizon. He wasn't looking at anything outside. He was watching inside. His past never returned as clear memories. Only fragments, sounds, fire, screams. He had been a child of 5 when the coup destroyed his world. He remembered his mother's cry snapping short mid-scream. The door splintering, soldiers shouting. Then silence, and the metallic taste of fear on his tongue. His father vanished before he ever learned his face. The only trace left behind was a machete wrapped in cloth, hidden beneath the floorboards. 3 days after the massacre, they found Gaddafi on the riverbank, clutching that blade like it was part of his own body. His eyes were open wide, dead calm, refusing even to blink. He was raised by war, not by choice. Militant camps shaped him into a weapon long before he learned the meaning of words like future or hope. They named him T-Monstre, the little monster, a child who never cried, a boy who learned to crawl with a rifle. Loyalty wasn't taught. It was beaten into bone. At age 15, he took his first life. A rebel officer. No hesitation. Just precision. The camp's exiled colonel stared at him and said, "You are not human. You are a blade. One day, a leader will wield you." Years later, that leader appeared. Captain IBRAHIM Traoré. He didn't tempt Gaddafi with money or ranks or easy glory. Only one mission: protect Burkina Faso. Not for power, for purpose. It was the first time Gaddafi felt seen as a man, not a tool. Now, soaked in the cold rain, his mind returned to one grave that never let him rest. At the edge of the field, the earth had been dug shallow. No name, no cross, just silence. Gaddafi knelt. I don't know if you were my brother or just another ghost in my life, but they took everything from us. And now they want to take him too. He placed the lion carving on the nameless grave. I will not let them. The storm didn't ease, yet the fury inside him became perfectly still. He rose with one truth burning in his eyes. Enough running from the past. Time to make the future bleed for it. Hours later, in a dark room, Gaddafi uncovered a message buried in a military channel designed to be untraceable. A coded transmission disguised inside a weather update. He replayed the audio again and again. A man and a woman speaking betrayal in calm voices. The convoy route is confirmed. Southeast bypass, 7 minutes of exposure. And the asset? He's too loyal. Remove him if required. 7 minutes, that was all the time the terrorists needed to kill the captain. Worse, the voices were from inside their own command. They weren't just planning to eliminate Captain Traoré. They were willing to kill Gaddafi too. He didn't sleep. He watched every palace camera, every guard, every twitch in the shadows. At sunrise, he confronted Colonel Fati, head of internal security. No shouts, no accusations, just the cold truth. I have the recording. Someone in this palace is a traitor. The colonel's face shifted. Not fear, disappointment. You weren't supposed to hear that. So it's real, Gaddafi said. The colonel leaned close, voice sharp with warning. The captain is protected. That is what matters. Let this go. Gaddafi stood his ground. The truth matters more. Colonel Fati's eyes hardened like stone. You are no longer just a guard. You are a symbol. Symbols are dangerous when they start asking questions. Gaddafi stepped forward. I will defend the captain from whoever threatens him, even if they wear our own uniform. You are not allowed, the colonel whispered, to question the structure that keeps him in power. That was the moment Gaddafi finally understood. The real enemy was already inside the palace walls. Betrayal wasn't a single moment. It was a disease that spread slowly, built behind polished medals, proud salutes, and the fake promise of unity. Gaddafi left the colonel's office without a word. The palace guards saluted him, but he did not salute back. For the first time, he wasn't sure who among them still believed in the captain, or in him. That night, beneath the western wall of the palace, he hid the audio recording in a hollow brick. Not out of fear, out of strategy. The storm had already entered the fortress. The enemy was walking in uniform. He had no more patience for doubts. The hunt began. The first target never saw death coming. A silent breath, a flash of steel, a body lowered into the dirt behind a rusted truck. Gaddafi's heartbeat never wavered. His hands were a memory of violence. He had chased this terrorist cell across provinces filled with scorched homes and roads collapsed by sabotage. No orders, no backup, only justice. Men feared ghosts. These men learned to fear him instead. The red mist, always appearing before the final gasp. The second target patrolled near the ruins of a church in Kaya. 2 hours of watching the man's habits. A cigarette break, a glance east. A scratch to the beard. 5 seconds later, life snapped out of his spine. No sound. Mercy. Gaddafi searched his gear. Weapons, encrypted radios, maps. Then something unexpected. A worn photograph. A group smiling, one boy holding a toy rifle. A familiar shadow standing behind him. The third target. The mission became personal. He tracked them deep into the bush, beneath shattered colonial walls taken back by nature. In the tall grass, he saw them gathered around a fire. 3 fighters, 1 woman, 1 boy about 14. The same empty-eyed child from the picture. The boy was learning to dismantle a rifle. That used to be him. Gaddafi gripped his blade. First the guards, then the leaders leave the boy to interrogate. Cold, efficient, perfect plan. Until he saw the boy's eyes. Hollow. Lost. Not a threat. A reflection. He remembered being that age. A child fed bullets instead of hope. Someone had placed a weapon in his hands exactly the same way. His fingers loosened. He hesitated. A dangerous crack inside a soldier who never hesitated. One of the men stood up suddenly. Did you hear that? Gaddafi vanished into the trees, swallowed by darkness, heart pounding not from fear, but shame. That night sleep rejected him. He stared at the blood-stained knife, and the silence whispered a new enemy into his ear. Doubt. The capital did not sleep either. Thousands filled the streets of Ouagadougou. Anger surged like a flood, breaking through every restraint. Signs raised, stones thrown, voices roaring, "Who protects us? Traoré has forgotten the people. No more fear." Gaddafi watched from the crowd in a hood, faceless, listening. Every word cut deeper than any bullet. They guard the palace, not the children. He saved his captain, but not my brother. The Red Devil protects power, not us. A woman screamed his name with hatred. Where was he when my brother was murdered? The crowd erupted. Bottles flying, tires ignited, riot police advancing, violence seconds away. Gaddafi stepped forward into the fire of their fury. He lowered his hood. The world froze. Faces recognized the scar, the ruthless eyes. The Red Devil. Gasps, fear, rage. He didn't lift a weapon. He didn't threaten. His voice rolled through the silence. I have bled for this land more times than the sun has risen. If I failed you, speak the truth. Not with rocks, with your voice. A rock smashed into his shoulder. Another bottle burst at his feet. He still did not move. The woman shoved through the crowd, holding a picture of a teenage boy. He believed in you. He followed you. He died because of you. Gaddafi looked at the photo. He shielded a child with his own body. He died a warrior. The riot paused. Police stood still. The night breathed, but something had broken. He walked away and felt the weight of a nation falling on his shoulders. The protector now looked like a prison wall, and walls crack. Under the ancient baobab tree at the edge of the forest, isolation wrapped around him like a burial shroud. He took out a letter, creased, stained, rewritten too many times. A farewell to the only man who ever called him human. Captain, if you are reading this, I am already gone. Not from you, but from the lies wrapped around you. He buried the letter and the lion token inside a metal box beneath the tree roots. Proof that he tried to stay human. A branch snapped. Instinct awakened. His hand reached for the knife. Even free, he was chained to violence. By sunrise, the world would continue as usual. Orders issued. Guards patrolling. Citizens waiting. But Gaddafi, the ghost forged by war, had disappeared from the living. Not dead, just gone. Yet his story refused to end there. Chains bit into his wrists, iron burning his skin. Darkness wrapped him inside an underground cell, captured not by enemies, but by those dressed as brothers. His arrest arrived quietly. Whispered orders, forged documents. No trial, no truth. The flickering bulb above mocked him like a dying star. He replayed every betrayal, every warning he gave, all twisted into lies branding him a traitor. Power had replaced loyalty. Politics replaced honor. He clenched his fists, skin tearing against steel. His body was trapped. His will was not. Outside, the city breathed unaware that its unseen guardian had been buried alive. He whispered to the dark, "You can cage the flesh, but not the fire." Deep inside, the Red Devil sharpened his resolve, because even in prison he was still a weapon. And one day, someone would regret leaving it loaded. The tension in the room didn't fade after he walked out. It followed him like a shadow, whispering warnings, testing his resolve. Outside, his security rushed to form a protective wall around him, but he raised his hand. "No fear," he said quietly. "Not in my country." Journalists swarmed the entrance, shouting questions, cameras flashing like 1,000 lightning strikes. They wanted a headline. They wanted proof that power had changed him. He gave them something else. "A leader does not hide behind closed doors," he said firmly. "The people have the right to see every decision made for this land." Far away, across dusty roads and crowded villages, people gathered around television sets and radio speakers. They listened not to a politician, but to a man who carried their dreams like a shield. Mothers nodded with hope. Young men sat upright, fire returning to their tired eyes. Even soldiers in remote bases paused, feeling something rare, pride. Soon after, a national broadcast was arranged. Ibrahim stood in front of the microphone. Not a podium decorated with gold, Not a backdrop of expensive curtains, just the flag of Burkina Faso behind him, simple, pure, true. Brothers and sisters, he began, his voice steady, this land belongs to us. Our hospitals will heal our people. Our mines will feed our families. Our schools will shape our children. Our soldiers will defend our soil, not bow before foreign masters. Every word hit like thunder rolling across the plains. He didn't speak as a president. He spoke as a son of the same soil, as someone who once stood barefoot on the same ground, feeling the same hunger, the same hope. He announced a new initiative, a nationwide audit on foreign-owned mines.